Hi everyone! We've decided to try to start doing regular updates for all of our friends and family about what our family is up to. We've been pretty isolated due to disability for quite some time now, and we really miss you all and want to find ways to include you all in our lives more. Brett and I have had a very interesting road to travel together since we first met the week before I turned 18, December of my senior year in high school. Many of you know the details of our struggles, but most of you probably have some big gaps in what you know because of how isolated we have been these last years. And so I would like to fill you in. It's not the shortest of stories, but I want to share as fully as I can, so strap in. Brett and I met in high school through my very good friend Mike. My Aunt Nancy and Uncle Dave had gotten me a weekend at a condo in Sun River, my favorite place, for my 18th birthday, and Mike brought Brett along. Long story short, we fell head over heels for each other and never looked back. I was offered a position on a volleyball team with a full scholarship, and it was either Kansas or Kansas City, from a coach I had met at the University of Oregon volleyball camp the summer before. I never thought twice about it, though, because I was too busy thinking about moving with Brett and getting married. We did just that while working and attending college. 3 months before we got married, I got violently ill, and it didn't subside for over 2 weeks. Doctors worked to help me and figure it out while I continued to get nauseous and seriously ill every few days for a few days at a time. Very long story short, I spent about a year in this state and lost 70 pounds. I continued to have different health struggles, but the doctors never found anything definitive besides a hiatal hernia. Until I was pregnant with our fourth child, when I was finally diagnosed as having a rare genetic disease, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and in the future, many other diagnoses, including myasthenia gravis. And yes, long story short, I did pass it along to all 4 of our children. Backing up to having our lovely babies. My first pregnancy was an ectopic pregnancy that was misdiagnosed as a miscarriage. Luckily, we were never aware of my life being in any serious risk, and a nurse midwife found it and was able to get me the treatment I needed. Chemotherapy, to be exact. We then struggled to get pregnant after that until we used Clomid and became pregnant with our twins. Elliot Anaya and Brent Landon were born December 27th at Legacy Emmanuel by cesarean by an OB midwife team at 37 weeks and 3 days along. Our next kiddo came by surprise with no fertility medication needed 18 months later on June 22nd in a beautiful home birth with my favorite midwife Bethel and her amazing student midwife Laura. Our next and final little is Xavier Hinkle-Hillier, born on 9/18/17 at Sacred Heart, the new version of the same hospital Mommy was born in. His was planned to be a home birth, but labor started with a scary placental abruption and a big gush of blood, but all went well with him at the hospital. After Brett and I were married, we moved to Portland and bought our first home. Long story here, we had to sue and literally have a $100,000 judgment against someone, but they won't pay it. We continued to go to college, and I was accepted into the amazing midwifery program at Birthingway College of Midwifery. My health suffered significantly, though, and I suffered my ectopic pregnancy during this time. My health continued to decline, and I had to drop out during my 4th term at the school. We eventually moved back down into the Eugene-Springfield area and moved around from Thurston to Pleasant Hill to Cresswell before landing at the far outskirts of the perimeter of Oak Ridge, right next to the National Forest. That is where we have been the last 4 years. We both joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in May of 2015, and we knew then, as we know now, that it was the single best decision we could have made in our lives. We know the church is true, and the gospel and our Heavenly Father's love for us amazing. So getting back to illness and disability, there's so much more than I can put in here that we deal with on the medical side of things. Literally endless appointments, testing, surgery, therapy, etc. I will try to give you all the Cliff Notes version. Yes, I did pass on my rare genetic disease to all 4 of the children, and all of them, including me, are now on disability. Some of you may or may not know, but getting on disability as an adult at age 29 is a difficult thing to do, and you have to be very seriously ill and able to prove it. We have discovered that all 5 of us with EDS are also somewhere on the autism spectrum. EDS is that Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Brent, at 7 years old now, is still nonverbal. We do not consider Wyatt nonverbal anymore, but he doesn't have significant amounts of functional communication and often resorts to just screaming or breaking things to show his feelings. It's hard when you can't tell people the things you want or aren't being understood the way you want to be. Xavier the baby currently has a permanent goose egg and bruise on his forehead from extreme banging of his head on the floor. Brent does this too, but he prefers glass surfaces. Xavier has also started to scratch his own face with both hands claw-like and bite his own fingers. Wyatt bites his arms, but doesn't really commit. The older three are on GPS trackers through Project Lifesaver through the local Lane County Sheriff's Department. They come to check the batteries and signals every 1 to 2 months at our home, and luckily we have never had an incident that we have had to call them in to find the boys, but it has been close a few times. All 3 of our boys are what is known as elopers. This all might sound very negative, but I don't mean it to be. It's just a part of our reality, and it's hard to show the real picture without these hard bits. Our children are the light and joy of our lives, and everything that we do is for and about them, and trying to provide the best existence for them that we can. They each have such amazingly sweet personalities and quirks, and we want to tell you more about all of them. So we're going to. We're going to do more letters and posts and YouTube videos, and do one about each of the individual children to fill you in more on how they're doing, what their life looks like, and how funny and cute they all are. We miss you all and are sorry if any of you feel alienated or like we haven't made an appropriate effort to be there for you in your life. We haven't wanted that, and are truly sorry for anyone that we made feel that way. Sometimes we have struggled literally just to survive our illnesses, and we are finally figuring out how to manage better the craziness that is our wonderful life. We love you all, sorry for the novel, and check back for more updates and information. Let me know if there's anything in particular you were wondering about, and I'll try to make sure to answer it. If you want these updates by mail or email, just let us know. This is the narrated first blog post from the Autism Closet and the Wildrick family.